With the release of Battlefield 6 right around the corner, it's time to decide if you're going to risk playing the game at launch, or if Battlefield's poor history of launches will lead you to buy the game after the initial few weeks have passed. It's well known that the history of Battlefield and its launches has always been a bit rocky. Each game that comes out seems to have a turbulent first few months before the game is finally fixed and fully playable. And with the cost of games getting more and more expensive, it really is difficult to justify spending full price on a game that might not run properly at launch. To immediately address the question at hand, it depends what matters to you. If you're willing to pay full price for a game that may have some glitches at launch, and if you're willing to play through any of those early glitches and performance issues that might exist, and if you're willing to accept that the game might be unplayable in some conditions, then I think it's worth it. However, if you aren't interested in paying full price for a game that has a bad history of terrible launches, then you're better off waiting until reviews are released, or if the game is on offer and a few patches have been released already. So essentially, it entirely depends on which camp you fall into. To go deeper into the discussion, I want to remind you what happened with previous Battlefield launches. At its launch in 2011, Battlefield 3's multiplayer suffered from significant technical issues including extreme lag, matchmaking problems and server connection failures. Battlefield 4 had an even worse launch, with technical issues, crashes, poor frame rates, instability, bad netcode, and leading to a generally broken and unplayable experience for many players across all platforms. Battlefield Hardline and 1 actually had quite smooth launches for Battlefield. They weren't perfect at all, and there were still several bugs and connection issues, but it was better than what we'd seen. And then this was followed up by another terrible launch with Battlefield 5, which again had poor performance issues, connection issues, and some very poor initial sales. Most recently, Battlefield 2042 launched suffering from widespread bugs, poor performance, and core design flaws like the controversial specialist system and a lack of general features. This poor record of performance at launch has cast a shadow on the series, and is a regular focus of many memes and jokes in the Battlefield community. At this point, it's almost expected that something will go wrong at launch. However, this is not exclusive to the series. Most recently, Borderlands 4 has been called unplayable by a majority of players, which has led the Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford to tell people to ask for a refund if they're unhappy. Despite this, however, the games have eventually made a turnaround, and through a series of patches and bug fixes they have become playable. In the case of Battlefield 4 especially, the game went from being a poorly optimised, unplayable mess to being arguably the best game in the series after the first year of its lifecycle. It is well worth mentioning the work and commitment that DICE have shown in improving its games at launch. The most evident of this was recently Battlefield 2042, with its significant changes over the past 4 years. However, despite Battlefield 6's well-performing betas, many long-time fans are still sticking with the no pre-orders mantra, citing there is really no benefit for pre-ordering a game, especially not for the cost of modern games. In times gone by, when games were more reasonably priced, it made little difference whether you bought the game at launch or not, and most of the time the cosmetics or any additional content you received was either worth it or added such a little increase in cost that it really didn't matter. However, since games are now launching from £50 to £70 or $60 to $80, and with Battlefield 6 costing £60 or $70 for the Standard Edition, and then £90 or $100 for the Phantom Edition, it makes a lot of sense to wait until Christmas or New Year's sales to then pick up the game when it's on offer, and give the devs time to iron out any bugs and issues that might have occurred during launch. I'm still going to risk pre-ordering the game. That's simply just based on I want to do more content when it comes out, and I am willing to take the risk of buying a game that I know could be unplayable, but I'm going to give DICE some faith this time and hope that they can actually launch a game that is playable and actually runs at launch. So, what are your thoughts? Will you be pre-ordering Battlefield 6 at launch, or will you wait for the initial reviews and for it to be more reasonably priced? Please leave your thoughts down below in the comments. So, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.